When you look at an orchestra, it's a group of families that have come together. The strings have violins, 1 and 2 up here. Violas, the disrespected group, right up in here. Cellos, everybody loves them because they can go from low to high, and the cello, oh, they play the beautiful melody. And then the basses, they play some of the time. Oh. When you get into the woodwind section, you got flutes up here, like those violins. You got your oboes getting in the way of the trumpets. You got your clarinets, who actually relate to the violas from a range standpoint, but they're much more respected because they're the cellos of the woodwind section. So you start to see these kind of familial, I like this son, but not this other one. You got your French horns, which, you know, they're really brass instruments, but they like to be the regal part of the woodwinds because they play loud for woodwind instruments, but they're soft for brass instruments. So they go from being disrespected in the brass section to being respected as a woodwind instrument. And of course, you got your bassoons, which I have to admit, that's my favorite instrument. I don't even know why I love a bassoon. The bassoons are so... When you get to your noble and mighty and most all-important, the most significant section of the orchestra, the brass section, the brass are speaking. You have the central figure of every orchestra, the trumpets. Then you have the horns, you know, we recognize them, but they're like that cousin that we don't know about. The trombones is a group that's always angry that they didn't actually play trumpet when they were in elementary school. I didn't mean that. Like, all of our trombone players in our orchestra are over 6'2" or 3", so I'm just joking, fellas. Then if you have the most lovable of all instruments, the tuba. Nobody can be mad at a tuba. And in the jazz band, we have the noble trumpets at the top, where they should be. The saxophones, which cover everything from kind of the cello to the oboe range. Baritone saxophone, which can be a lovable instrument when in the right capable hands. Trombones, but because they play with plunger mutes and do all kind of trick things, and they're the voice of a reverend in jazz, they have a level of respect that's far higher than the actual instrument has earned. And then you have our greatest invention, the rhythm section. The rhythm section covers everything. The bass is the judiciary. I'm stumbling on it because ours is so corrupt at this moment. The bass is the judiciary. The piano is the Congress, has all the keys, and the president is the drums. You can find a rhythm section everywhere in the world. So when writing this piece, the thing was to try to figure out, how do I bring the families together? I had a chart of the orchestra I would look at it. Right now, I'm gonna have this one speak to that one, and I was trying to, so many considerations, but it was designed to bring us together. Some things about the writing process. I did not really know about writing for orchestra. I had never written a real orchestral piece, so I called Peter Martins, who was the ballet master-in-chief and the artistic director of the New York City Ballet. And I asked him, can you do me a favor and let me write a ballet for y'all, which is going to be terrible, because I need to just hear the instrument. And we had worked on things, and he was such a great artist and a friend. He said, I'll program it on something innocuous. Have at it. I wrote a piece called Them Twos. Ooh, it was terrible. But I learned a lot just analyzing it. So I was in a position of having someone who would teach me how to orchestrate as we did this piece. His name is James Oliverio. He serves as the executive director of the Digital Worlds Institute at the University of Florida. I learned so much from this man. First of all, he's very funny. So we joked around all the time, referring to ourselves, oh, noble composer of rhythm and tune. I would write stuff and he would say, that's not going to sound good. He would not write something for me. He would just say, that's not going to sound good. Look at this. We had a chart in my house that called All Rise, the last great masterpiece of the 20th century. As we started to become increasingly tired in October and November, we started scratching words out. It became the last piece of the 20th century. And then it became the late piece of the 20th century. Then it became simply a late piece of the late 20th century.
Did you know that our food system is basically designed to be wasteful? We grow so much food in the US that goes to waste. That's one of the big reasons.
One of the tools that I found to be most indispensable in writing it is the need for humor and dance to live besides pathos and introspection as the expression of the blues in a larger context. We have to laugh and dance through tragedy to affirm our humanity. And as this time requires, I guess all times require that. What is required always is the affirmation of those values we hold most sacred, and affirmation through action. And that's what the maestro was telling me. In our time, we openly admit across the country that we're lost. And because the world is spinning, people who are lost walk in a circle. Liberty has become privilege and democracy is all about rights. The touch words trigger every side. I want, I want, I want, I want, I want. Like my mama used to tell us, we had a lot of kids in our family, and my job was washing dishes. She said, every time you eat on a dish, I want you to think about the fact that it needs to be washed by someone. And that someone is you. She was talking about balance and reasoning. The loss of balance and reasoning across the board in our democracy should be our main concern. We see sectarianism hidden into very reasoned arguments that put people at odds with their own self-interest. I don't want health care, but I lost my job, and I need it. We're feeling the true power of irrational thought and dealing with the fact that perceptions mold reality. Hey, we grew up with it in Kenton, Louisiana. Your presence made you guilty of something. And when there's the challenge of fact versus feeling, fact has a big problem. However, let's never forget that the truth has a weight and the power of momentum across millennia. Never forget the great Andrew Young told me a story about him and Martin Luther King. I asked him, man, what is the thing you remember the most? He said, man, of all the great times, he said, one night we got caught outside of our protection. He said, I don't know how we got there. He said, we were surrounded by rednecks in a very bad situation that was uncontrolled. He said, and I just said to myself, well, we're going to be a headline. He said, but that night, Martin talked to them. He said, damn, if I could remember what he told them. He said, but it was something that kept them from killing us. He said, and I understood then in that moment the power of fact. And he talked directly to them, and it shocked them. And we were able to get stuff straight so we could get out of there. And he said, it sends chills down my spine in this moment. It gives me goosebumps recalling it to you because I don't really talk about it. The truth and the power of belief is always on the table. And we make powerful choices. And those choices are also a part of defining the present moment. This is a time of heated debate and fire. However, the discussion and the discord shows that all is not lost. It's not the end, because there are believers who are willing to engage in what may seem to be a waste of time. I think we need an aggressive positivity that is sometimes at odds with the concept of symbiosis. The apocalyptic, it always comes with fire and brimstone and noise, but the symbiotic comes with love and peace and welcoming. My father once called me and said, man, I'm looking at this rap video and it's so infectious because it's so aggressive. He said, why is it that they always fired up and heated about their thing, and when we talk, it's always so passive? This is going to be a struggle. I go back to what Ella Fitzgerald told me. He says, I must be thinking about Aretha. I'm going to tell y'all one funny story about her. So Aretha sometimes would call me late at night, 1 o'clock. And we would sit on the phone till 2 o'clock, 2:30. And whatever we ended up talking about, she would then text me in all capitals. Oh, Marsalis, I forgot about this, blah, blah, blah. She talked in a very natural way. And she would always tell me about the history of gospel music and jazz musicians. And one night she said, I know you're wondering, why is Aretha talking about all these people? She said, well, Marsalis, that's because you're the only young person I know who knows who any of these people are. But finally, I think we have to find optimism in the fact that things are in cycles. And though we are in need of a new mythology, the examples are at hand. One shining example is the James Webb Telescope. The new mythology needs to recognize that a person in Illinois can connect with a fellow pie maker in South Africa and trade or establish some type of tie. What was only open to companies is now open to enterprising individuals, like jazz. It taught us over a century ago, this is how you bring your individuality to a group in the interest of enriching each other instead of destroying or exploiting. It's a novel but very, very old idea. You do it by doing it and by striving always to create more space for who you think is others. We actually have brothers and sisters all over the world. The actual potential in your fellow person is very dynamic. I remember telling my father, man, I run out of stuff to play. I play something, I don't have any new ideas. He just started laughing. He said, if you're looking for a new idea, just listen to the person next to you. Let's realize that AI lacks the ability to reason. It's a tool that can do a lot of things, but the greatest thing you will ever encounter in your life and the life of many, many generations to follow is the person next to you. In the words of Stanley Crouch, and this is really the main theme of All Rise, be always in pursuit. And at the end of his many emails he would send to me and to other people, he would always write VIA, via, victory is assured. I appreciate all of you coming today to hear me give some loose thoughts on what it takes to come together. It is a challenge. But the most important thing I think for us to realize is the importance of tactility. You can Zoom all you want. For some things, you got to be there. Thank you so much.